The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial podcast and fan community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire and Anne Rice's Immortal universe from AMC and AMC+. Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We are your hosts,
Ashley Wright Eiler.
I'm Joel Sharpton, and we are The Articulate Coven.
And we are Shooketh.
Oh my goodness. We are Shooketh. We are officially Shooketh. So much to talk about. I will say, folks, I am so thankful that this series has come into our lives. I'm excited about the next couple of months. Now that we know what the cast diaries are, we'll talk about that in a minute too. Now that we know what those are, you and I are going to get some time off over the next several weeks, but as we prepare for the Mayfairs, so that's good news for us too. But boy, I see a whole off season. I mean, I'm very excited for season 2 announcements. I want to know what the production schedule is, and I want to know when we can expect it. I'm assuming it'll probably launch about this same time next year. So the 1st of October in 2023 is my guess.
That feels right.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping we eventually get to a place where they are doing divided seasons, but the second season, all of the trade releases when they announced the second season renewal, I hadn't really noticed it at the time, but all of them say 8-episode second season. So I think that's pretty locked in at this point. I'm still hopeful in the future that we get to like a 12-episode season or a 14-episode season where they then divide it into 2 6s or 2 7s so that we get this show, once every 6 months. That's what they did with The Walking Dead. That's what they've done with that all along. They did it eventually with Breaking Bad too, towards the end. I think they did that with Better Call Saul as well.
I think some of that
just
had
makes
to do
sense with
like
those shorter
production
seasons.
times. Yeah, and I think some of that had to do with like out of necessity with production time and things like that. But we wouldn't mind it year round, y'all. We can handle it, and we'll all watch it. We've shown it. We've proven it. We'll watch it. Give it.
Well, and they're using this to really launch and push their streaming service internationally. And if you want somebody to stay subscribed, you want to lower your churn rate, the way to do that is to have, similar content that the fans, that same, subscriber wants throughout the calendar year. So if they only give us Interview with the Vampire and then Mayfair Witch is right on top of it, and then you go 6 months without, you're going to have a lot of people that effectively want to fall out and not subscribe those 6 months in the off season.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's get into this. We are talking, by the way, about episode 7 of season 1 of Interview with the Vampire. I really like the branding. You only got it at the very end. Interview with the Vampire Part 1. That's what this season will be known, I think, in retrospect. That makes me wonder if, as we get into future books, let's say season 2 wraps up the Interview with the Vampire storyline, do they then retitle the show? And maybe,
it feels like that's the natural progression
Chronicles or something.
It feels like the natural progression.
We talked about, are there spinoffs? Maybe there still are spinoffs to this, but what we may see is just a change of the title, maybe with some colon and branding, subtitle branding, whatever.
It all exists under the umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. The Thing Lay Still was the name of this one. It's written by Ben Philippe, directed by Alexis Ostrander, and man,
holy
what
shit,
a fantastic job! Let's say right here off the top, this writing crew has taken us on a roller coaster ride, no doubt. But it's so clear they had a story to tell. Now, whether you differ with the story that they told, whether you wish they had told a different story, that's a fair quibble, and we will talk about that, I think, endlessly in the off season. But
absolutely,
they clearly had none of this was squandered or wasted. They put their pieces
not
on
a
the
minute of this.
No, exactly. And then they moved towards their end game.
And also it was all set up in the previous episode too, with like the way Claudia said to Louis, you have to think like him, and then you have to be 5 steps ahead of him. And that played out so brilliantly in the last chapter of this episode. It was just unbelievable. I also think, in addition to, they clearly had their story mapped out, which, thank God. I hate like messy adaptations where they're just grasping at straws. last season of Game of Thrones. But this was I also think the use of language that was pulled directly from the book was brilliant in this, you know.
Oh, there was
so much familiar language.
Oh, there's a lot. There were several references directly to the film as well, but there was one quote, and Rollin Jones had called his shot on this one in some of the press before the season started. He had talked about a quote in this final episode that we're going to talk about as we get towards it, but I want to save that a little bit. Let's go through this thing from the start. Amazing to me. I was really surprised that Daniel was able to hold his new knowledge from the end of last episode until Lestat's, death, until the story had been told, so to speak, and Louis had reached his desired ending for this chapter, so to speak. That's when Daniel finally sprung it on him and on Rashid that he has this new knowledge of the two of them and their interactions from the 70s. I was flabbergasted. I really thought this thing was going to start with him, like maybe even rushing their bedrooms or something, like wandering around early, but when he's not supposed to. What the fuck is going on? What happened in the 70s?
Yeah, this is a totally older version of that character, though, and I think that you're thinking from that young Daniel mindset, what he would do, and he's so much more. I don't know. He's making his plans too. He's thinking things out thoroughly. I think he's realizing as he goes along that he is not in for what he thought he was in for. Like, this is some fucked up shit that's happening around him, and he's just beginning to, like, it's tip of the iceberg,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on all of that. Of course, the one thing I will say is it didn't even occur to me until just now when you were saying it, Ashley. Honestly, Daniel understands from that moment when he wakes up with the knowledge that Rashid was there as well, that not only is Louis sort of playing a game with him, Rashid is playing a game with Louis.
Yeah.
I think Daniel understands that immediately, and I honestly didn't even get that until after. I've watched the thing 3 times now, and it took a Twitter conversation with some friends for me to actually get, oh shit, there's some very clear things in this episode where Rashid, we'll just go ahead and say it. If you're here, you should have seen the episode. Rashid is Armand, folks. I don't know why he used that moniker exactly, but this is Armand that has been the houseboy, so to speak, for the season for Louis, serving him throughout, calling him Mr. de Point de Lac, all of that stuff. That's been the vampire Armand this whole time. First of all, great character and a great portrayal. As a matter of fact, we need to get that actor's name. I meant to write it down. I wrote all sorts of other notes here. That. No, that's all right. I'm going to get it right now because this guy is a classically trained London theater actor, and
he's been playing the slow ass burn all season. And I think so many fans suspected that and felt like that was the direction they were going in. But I think enough of us, I mean, hell, I wasn't completely sure. Every time I've thought something for sure, I've been, he walked out into the damn sun. But then also we know that that is something that he could live through for sure.
Assad Zaman. Assad Zaman is his name.
He's beautiful too. I think that we've talked about like difference and appearance. I think everyone was hoping for the ginger Armand, our auburn-haired Botticelli angel, and I still think we get a little bit of the angelic look. Even though he's not quite the Armand off the book, I think that I'm really excited now that we know to go back and rewatch the whole thing and look at all the things I missed and all the clues. And I'm so excited to do a rewatch.
Very, very, very much looking forward to watching this all again with the knowledge of the finale. You're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, in the middle of the day today, in between my second and third watch, I thought about watching the first episode again entirely. So here's my thing with Assad. I I do, especially if you're a true Armand fan, right? If Armand is one of your favorite characters from the books, and don't get me wrong, I find that hard to understand.
I mean, I'll say I've been off and on. He's been a favorite of mine. I have
He
been
is definitely
completely in love with Armand at numerous times, and a lot of it has to do with what kind of relationship he is in with the people around him. And
indeed.
And I know when I read The Vampire Armand, I felt a lot for him and for his, existence as a human. It was some pretty fucked up shit. And so it's just, he's a complicated character like all of our vampires. You can't just hate him.
No, and he's especially as a Lestat fan, I have always he's a rival of Lestat's several times throughout history, and because of that, both for other characters' affections and just in general as an authority amongst vampires, and because of that, he's an excellent character for me, to sort of love to hate. I really
what a great foil.
He's a fantastic foil. It is interesting when he bests Lestat. It is interesting to me when Lestat bests him as well. Now, here's my point, though. If he's your favorite character, I understand. Here again, we've sort of missed the boat, right? You don't get to see a book-accurate portrayal of your favorite character, not even really almost at all, because he's aged up. He doesn't have the red hair. He's not exactly from the same, ethnic background, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things are true. However, it's clear here already that they are going to portray that role of rival to Lestat. I think with layers in the second season. Don't you imagine? I mean, our supposition that we might see the vampire Lestat flashbacks from the early part of that novel, his mortal life and the early parts of his vampire years in Paris, as well as the European story with Louis and Claudia. I think that is even more likely now, based on what we know, based on, the scheduling and the contracts for everybody. Having said that, how much more fun and uncomplicated will it be for us to watch this man be Lestat's rival for romance as well as for power and authority versus, for instance, the kid from Superman and Lois that we've talked about in the past. Alex Garfin, I think that is that kid's name. That kid's great. I would feel weird if at the end he had floated up and then stood beside Jacob Anderson and said, "This is the love of my life, the vampire Armand."
All of it felt very earned. All of that felt very, it didn't feel like a trick. I get really pissed off. Like Fight Club pisses me off because I think in its presentation, Fight Club is a trick. It's a lie. Whereas if you as far as an ending of something like as Sixth Sense, where if you go back, it holds up. You know what I mean? And this doesn't feel like a lie. It doesn't feel like they just pulled it out of their ass. It feels like you said, like they've thought it out. It's part of the story. Here we go. And also I'm like, Louis, blink twice if you're being held hostage by the vampire Armand. Holy shit. I'm so worried about my guy.
I just don't know anything.
Where are we now in time? My thing is is this when before Lestat rises again and becomes, rock star Lestat? Is that where we are? Like, where the fuck are we in the timeline?
So even more so now than before, Ashley, I want to know, when did he re-record Come to Me? He didn't have a chance between when it was recorded the first time with Antoinette and now, and yet,
Wait, he could have had a chance to. Like, I'm sure, like, between our now time in Dubai, or between our now time, the murder and the exiting of New Orleans.
The murder and now in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
So I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, we know Lestat has done something.
Yeah.
But at what point in there would he have recorded this love song for Louis, and then Louis have gotten a copy of it? That sort of implies that the two of them have reunited, even if they ended up then parting ways again. What happened there? Did Armand beat his ass? I mean, like, what? We don't know. And here's the other thing. Okay, so we're going to have to shove some of that aside to the end, because
right, my God.
If you haven't read the books before and you're just watching the series,
we're speculating so much right now.
We're speculating a lot on things that you don't know happen yet. So let's save that a little bit. Let's walk through the episode, because I want to praise somebody here. I've already been in love with this guy. I've mentioned him before on the show, but Tom Anderson is such a delightful addition to this series. He has been absolutely wonderful in every episode that he was in. Such a great addition to season 1, and I'm really excited to see what are those little things that maybe they spring completely from whole cloth. Like in this case, they took a historical figure and they put him into this story. Tom Anderson doesn't exist in the books. No character really like that exists in the books, mostly because these two men don't have interactions with the hoi polloi of New Orleans and the inner workings of the city like they do in this series.
This is a product of changing the time period as well. This is something that you get, but because you've put them in the city to start with, there's no exit from the plantation to the city. They've been in the city to start with, and so now we get to see how their lifetime in the city is going to have to come to an end because of they've been there killing people too long.
So the show writers and showrunners, the producers behind it, they promised us, they said, even for book fans, we want something new and exciting, unexpected. I think Tom Anderson is a great example of that. They used him not just like a little sprinkle, right? They used him throughout the series to show us the rise and fall of these characters' connection to the city. And then in the end, they used him as such a plot device, such a turning point for the whole season and really the series, in that we didn't expect it either. The book readers Rollins said it in the little post-show thing. Oh, you're so clever. You're all into it. We know the twins are where the poison is going to be. We see it happen in the episode. And so when that goes awry, I had myself convinced. I was like, oh, wow. I guess Louis and Claudia are just going to get lucky somehow and overcome Lestat and Antoinette.
Here's what happened to me.
How is this going to play out?
Does anyone else watch with the subtitles on? Because I do. And when
oh my God, yes.
You see that Antoinette is speaking at the ball.
Yes, and it's pretty clear that it was telepathically.
Yes.
I will say this, though. I was convinced immediately after that you hear Tom Anderson speak.
Right.
And you see his name, and I thought, did Lestat turn Tom Anderson?
Oh, shit. That's hilarious.
I had convinced myself that Lestat had two backups at this point for some reason.
So, my God,
but Tom,
you guys.
Tom has just a freaking wonderful line. He's had great delivery in all of his scenes, but in this one in particular, I loved the delivery, and I wanted to call it out. When they come to him the very first time to ask him about the party, Lestat wants to become king of Mardi Gras. And he says, where to start? 1, I'm not a party planner. 2, it's January. You're a little behind the gun.
No lie,
3,
y'all. New Orleans,
right?
Mardi Gras is serious fucking business. You do not plan it a month ahead of time.
You're right. And 3, here's me and your two-tone daddies in 1910. Do you see anything wrong with this picture? I love that line so much. I even like the two-tone daddies line. The one thing that I'm going to be mad at the writers about this, Tom is a villain. He's clearly a villain. We were always going to root for him to die at Lestat or Louis' hands during the feast scene. There was no problem with that. We needed no additional villainry from Tom in this episode, I thought. Merely the hungry and greedy desire for immortal life, even when he thinks, that these guys are all devils.
Right.
That would have been plenty. Why? This is the first time he does it, too. Why does he have to say the slurs to Louis at the party?
Okay, I actually have a thought about this, and I think that part of it, like that entire showing him throughout the entirety of the series is another opportunity to show, outside of our unreliable narrators, the degradation, nope, that's not the word, how all of their relationships are falling apart, not just within their home, but with people that they have in the community. At this point, they've gotten to a time where this whole thing is untenable. They can't keep going. They have relationships with people who know they should be older than they are. And I think that part, though it's like distasteful, and he says some really messed up shit, it is in part to show how far we've fallen away from these people that were our buddies at first. Like, oh, I don't mind you two and your fancy ways. Like, we kind of wink and a nudge and we ignore them. But now we're at the point that anything you do that is an aberration, we are going to point out, because it's the first thing or the last thing that we can actually see and acknowledge that's wrong here, when the rest of it is such a supernatural fuckery.
That's interesting. I again here, even in the Mardi Gras scene, I kept thinking, man, I wonder if they're going to throw in, like, surely there's a Mayfair at that party, right?
Oh,
like, surely there was a Mayfair at that party watching things.
I think we'll have an opportunity to see that maybe in like flashbacks or just in like
in that series. Scenes, maybe we'll see
in
them
the world of it. Yeah, just existing in the same world. Like we're going to see witches pass through our vampires world. I think for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I really felt like with AMC building these connections that was a missed opportunity to at least, like one of them could have been introduced to Lestat at the party, right? Like, I mean, I don't know who's alive at this point based on how they're compressing timelines, but like to me, the answer would have been to have Julian met Lestat, like,
right.
or maybe not be introduced, but like have somebody say, why don't you, let me introduce you to my friend Julian. And then, like, maybe even Julian turns his back on him. Like, because maybe Julian knows exactly what he is and he wants to stay the fuck away from him. I don't know.
Maybe he gets invited to the party. And maybe that's something we'll see in an episode of their show, He gets invited to that party and he's like, no, I'm not so interested in your fountain of youth.
Or maybe they're sitting at the dining room table one Sunday morning and somebody says, well, Julian, that was a good thing you told me not to go to that Mardi Gras ball the other
right,
day.
Exactly.
7 people ended up dead.
It'll be referenced. Yeah, I guarantee you. Especially because they talk about how much press that night got in New Orleans. Like, it would be crazy if it didn't, come up in conversation at the very least.
So anyway, I just wanted to praise Tom's character and portrayal throughout the season.
So great,
I think
so
that
fun.
was really well done. And honestly, even the finish, like the fact that he ended up being the MacGuffin for the episode.
He was the poison.
It was pretty cool, man. So in episode 1, Louis tells Daniel, "Let the tales seduce you." And that is exactly what they did in this episode. Claudia lets the plan seduce Lestat. And it's a really good plan, man. Like, it's as I'm watching and I'm going through it, I'm like, it's sort of a shame that Anne never did this. I think she does don't Lestat and maybe David go to Carnival at some point in one of the later books or something?
I do think so, yeah.
I feel like they hunt at Carnival at some point. Maybe. I
mean, you're missing the boat if you're not. There's some good drunk blood to be had at Mardi Gras.
But also plenty of evildoers, right? Pickpockets and thieves and drug dealers and all sorts of people that you could pick off, even if you've got your Moral Jones on at the time as a vampire. Anyway, I just thought, what a brilliant thing, man. And yes, if Lestat in this story where we're having Claudia and Louis sort of go with Lestat and they're all going to leave town at once. That's the plan.
Yeah, that was such a great way to set it up.
I think throwing him a party, like to say, yeah, we're going to say fuck off New Orleans on the way out of town. I think that, yeah, man, I think you could absolutely get him to buy into that. And here's the other thing, though, that is interesting because of it throughout. I feel like Sam here, okay, so Jacob got his Emmy bona fides in the first episode. I feel like that's the reel that's going to get played is the scene in the priest, the scene in the confessional.
Oh, yeah.
In this episode, though, I feel like the stuff on the balcony, especially with Sam and Louis, that's going to be Sam's reel. You can see it not just in that scene, all throughout. You can see it in his eyes. First and foremost,
so sad. He is
enjoying
sad.
Himself.
No, he's like, because that's the thing.
Yes.
And when I went back and watched it the second time, it was this like, he's like, he thinks he knows what the plan is, and he does know what the base of the plan is. And good for Louis that Claudia built in, you just fall back in love with him. That's fine with me. That doesn't hurt me at all. Just do that, and that'll be your part of the plan. And all of it is just, since he knows what's happening because of Antoinette, it is just, when you go back and rewatch it, he's so sad. He's so like, I can't believe this is what it's coming to. And even though he comes to a plan where he's going to kill Claudia, they're going to kill Claudia and then take Antoinette off with them to Europe. Oh, Jesus. Or to Buenos Aires, sorry.
Yeah, wait, am I supposed to read anything into the fact, by the way, isn't Buenos Aires, isn't that where all the Nazis went after World War II?
No, that's Argentina. Yeah,
into the Nazis.
Pretty accurate. We could go munch on some...
He acknowledges their excellent tailoring, which,
yes,
I mean, it was Hugo Boss that designed the outfits, but still... the fact that you were heading to South America made me a little questionable there, Lestat.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of this stuff with Louis and Lestat is fantastic throughout this part of the episode. But
him talking about New Orleans.
Face, I mean, okay. So that's the quote, by the way. That's the whole quote. Okay, so he gives this quote. Roland promised this in the press tour. I heard him talk about it a couple of separate times. He said that there's a quote about the city that's from the book that was going to be used in the show as an emotional gut punch. So here's the full quote that they adapted from the novel. This is from the novel. New Orleans, though beautiful and desperately alive, was desperately fragile. There was something forever savage and primitive there, something that threatened the exotic and sophisticated life both from within and without. Not an inch of those wooden streets nor a brick of the crowded Spanish houses had not been bought from the fierce wilderness that forever surrounded the city, ready to engulf it. Hurricanes, floods, fevers, the plague, and the damp of the Louisiana climate itself worked tirelessly on every hewn plank or stone facade, so that New Orleans seemed at all times like a dream in the imagination of her striving populace, a dream held intact at every second by a tenacious, though unconscious, collective will. Damn, y'all. Anne can write. Y'all know it?
Yeah. Y'all, this is what I mean. Like, such beautiful and judicious choices of things to use from the books. You know, like, they haven't gone completely mad, and it's not just a complete cut and paste. Which, honestly, there's not enough conversations to fill a whole series that exists
especially
just in the books. You know, in interview, especially. The most conversations.
Thinking about how sad he is.
Yeah, and the bulk of the conversations in that are literally just between Daniel and Louis. So, you know, of course they've got to make up a lot of it, but man, they've really, really used such wonderful passages, such wonderful lines, such wonderful phrases from the book, and also like a couple tonight from the movies that were just excellent.
Let's go back a couple of seconds, because there's a great line from Lestat when he's presented the twins. He says, "Is there rosemary in your
They
garden?"
spell rosemary. Yeah, I see.
Listen, Ashley, that is the strangest and sexiest pickup line in the whole show. Okay. Let me. I mean, I don't know if Kelly picked up on it, but in the future,
you're gonna come home tomorrow. Kelly's gonna have bought a rosemary bush, and she's just gonna start leaving sprigs all over the house.
We saw rosemary. We saw a rosemary bush while we were out today. I swear to God, we did, and I thought about it. But if she wants to lean into my ear and just ask if there's rosemary in my garden, I'm just saying we'll be saluting.
You've got a new kid safe code.
Yeah, that's
a new kid safe code. And you're real into rosemary now. Everyone send Joel soaps that are scented with rosemary.
Speaking of, we were talking about it earlier with Armand. I'm so glad that our twins were grown men in this one, by the way.
Oof, Lord.
Especially because they were involved in the whole feast scene. Like, that would have been terrible if we had a couple of kids running around there. But we were talking, though, about the New Orleans quote in the balcony. So first of all, I know people have given the show shit. Why do these vampires smoke and sometimes drink when we know that, like, food tastes like chalk? Right. I love that they smoke. First of all, both these men look fantastic with cigarettes, right? Like, both Sam and Jacob look fantastic. And there is an intimacy in the hand gestures that come from lighting and giving a cigarette. All of those things are
absolutely.
sort of like Right? Yeah, and you can see it like here, like Lestat lights Louis' cigarette directly with his own
cigarette.
Yeah. There's something about that. Like there's like it's the passing of the flame, or I don't know, whatever. But anyway, I'm glad they smoke in the show. I think they all look great doing it. I'm sorry. I know it's not a good habit for anybody to have, and I know it doesn't make any sense for vampires.
Look, also,
really, but
none of
that's a change I like.
Our vampires don't have good habits for us to have. It's okay. We don't have to. They don't have to be heroes. They don't have to be role models.
I mean, one does wonder, does the nicotine calm any nerves or anything? Like they don't have circular systems in the way that we do. I don't. Anyway,
That's true.
I'm not worried about the science. I'm just worried about how it looks.
Yeah, it does look very cool. Our guys look very cool sharing a cigarette together on a balcony.
I loved the dance.
Yes,
that was wonderful.
That was beautiful.
I loved the reprise of "Come to Me." By the way, that's the music that's playing behind them. I love the scandalous kiss. You know, everybody. First of all, it's scandalous when they start dancing. You can hear like a murmur from the crowd.
Yeah, gas.
But then when Louis goes in for the kiss,
and I love that
gasped.
It's Louis that goes in for the kiss too, and that's just another another layer of how this is like stabbing Lestat in the heart. You know what I mean?
But see, that's what I'm talking about when I say like there's the layers for Sam, because okay, so what does Lestat want? Lestat wants to be the center of attention. He wants the family to hunt together in the same sort of like vicious way, toying with his food that he enjoys personally. And he wants love and affection from Claudia too, but mostly from Louis. And here in their plan, they give him everything that he wants.
Yeah.
And he takes it, even knowing that it's a poison pill. You know, it's sort of, I thought earlier, like, it would be like, you know, Jesus and Judas going to the Last Supper, except in this case, Jesus has the new 13th apostle hanging out outside, ready to kick in the door and slash Judas's throat, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
But like,
it adds an extra layer.
Yeah, so I mean, like this Jesus is a little bloodthirsty.
He's walking into a huge betrayal,
to a trap.
Yeah, and he's smart enough to have figured out that it's happening, and I love it. It's so brilliant. I knew it immediately when Louis said that Claudia was limiting talking to him. That meant she was choosing the time she was doing it. It meant she was choosing what she was saying very carefully. To me, I was like, oh, that bitch has got a real specific plan coming up. So like I was not surprised to see the twists and turns as they came up, because I knew immediately when he said we could plan by talking telepathically, but Claudia really limited us doing it, but she didn't explain why. I was like, so huge tell for me. I was like, oh, well, hell. That bitch Antoinette.
I wonder if the show, and again, sorry, this is maybe a slight spoiler. I'm going to try to be vague. I wonder if the show is going to make Claudia more complicit or even directly responsible for her own resolution in season 2. Let's put it like that. I think that they're sowing the seeds here already, especially in the end when Daniel starts asking questions about, you know, Claudia's mood after this party and after their exit from Louisiana. I think they're sowing the seeds that perhaps this Claudia is more of an active agent in her own life and choices.
I think
and
for
is
sure
less on a roller coaster than the one from the book.
I think that we are definitely it's definitely setting us up for that. She is, I feel like from Jump Street, she's had more agency in this, which is frankly more fun for me. I don't have to, because I'll say this too. I think something that the last couple of episodes have really reminded me of is that this is from the horror genre. And I think sometimes I get so wrapped up in like the gothic romance of it that I forget that this is fucking vampire horror shit, you know? And I think it's something that's been really fun about the last couple of episodes is that it has been scary. Like I was literally at one point watching it the first time, like I had my blanket up like around my face because I was just like, ah! because I had all the anticipation of what I had figured out and what was about to be revealed with Antoinette, and the shit was hitting the fan hardcore with people getting killed left, right, and center, and I was legit like having a horror movie moment, and I was so excited because I mean that's one of the things that we do love about this, but it's so easy to get stuck in the romance of it all, and the ins and outs of like the big heavy thoughts of it, and the philosophical questions and all of that. At the core, it's still vampires. Holy shit, and they're scary sometimes.
Oh, a million percent. I literally, one of my notes here, like one of my next notes is, I do not love the gore in the feast scene.
Oh,
like,
man, to pull the jaw off I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's Kelly.
He pulled
Kelly
the guy's
said,
jaw off and held it, and then we saw the guy.
Oh wow, he pulled that guy's jaw off.
Yeah, and then the camera goes back to him because it's not just enough to see Louis standing there.
Not only
like
that,
we were gonna go
Louis
back.
dives into the gaping hole to suck out some juicy juice. Oh my goodness. So look, I mean, it's not unexpected.
No, not at all unexpected, but man, whoo, it was just a reminder of what we're dealing with here. These are fucking vampires.
We talked earlier about how there's like the mirror in the first episode. Louis tells Daniel to let the tale seduce him, and here Claudia's letting the plot seduce Lestat. In the first episode, we have the super violent scene in the church at the end. Here we have the mirror with the super violent final scene in the after the party. So yeah, it's not unexpected. This is the network that gives us The Walking Dead. And I think at least in part, this Immortal universe is supposed to eat up some of that audience as The Walking Dead sort of ages out, or at least the main show does. It's over this year. I think they want some of the body horror that you're going to get in, the Mayfair Witches.
I believe
some of the gore that you get in this show.
I think Nicotero's team is doing the
effects,
which if you're getting that, you're in for it. You just in for it.
Yeah, no.
We're talking about some of the greatest, like some of the greatest like gore creators of our generation for sure. Like these guys are fucking amazing, and I do get pumped to see it because I love horror. I love gore. Like I have spent all fucking October just like drunk on slasher films, you know what I mean? And so I like that reminder that that's the genre we live in. They are beautiful and romantic and sexy, but they are still killers. They are still vampires. They are still monsters. Like, do not ever forget what they are.
Well, it's just so interesting to me that I don't know. That's like the 10th and 11th reasons that I'm interested in this book series is the blood and the violence. It's just
right.
It's so far down the list.
But also, I think, again, unreliable narrators, they're always like, oh, well, we're very clean and tidy with them. But, I mean, they're scaring the shit out of people when they're eating them sometimes. It's not always they're not always giving someone that gentle embrace and the way that it's described so many times is like, and in the books it happens all the time. They're like, oh, I just found this person and I took them in my arms and I drank all their blood, but I made them think about the last time their lover said they love them or some shit like that, when really it's just a fucking vampire eating someone.
Oh man, that was now that sounded like you were running Armand down there. That sounds more like Armand than anybody. I only call the ones that long for death.
That's right.
All right, I got a question for you here. What is Lestat doing the moment before Antoinette comes into the house? So the first time that I watched it, I thought, oh my gosh, he's calling to her. But no, he can't.
He can't.
Makers can't speak telepathically to their progeny.
He's opening the door for her.
Okay, so that was my guess the second time. I said he uses his mind to explode the lock or whatever and pops the lock off the door.
Yeah, because they've already planned.
And she was waiting outside.
She was waiting per their plan. Yeah.
That was the signal, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, you'll hear the door. You'll hear the fucking knob fly off the door. Come on in, bitch. It's on.
Yeah. If you don't, then I don't need you.
Oh, and her mimicking their voices. Oh, it was so gross. Like there was something about after she comes into the room and we've revealed that she's been the one that's been tattling Claudia's thoughts to Lestat, and she's mimicking their voices in this just hateful way. It's just so cruel and kind of hateful and awful. And all I could think was, he thinks that Louis is going to go away with her after this? Are you fucking kidding me? You lunatic. You're so crazy.
See, Antoinette is another good example of and see, that one's not from whole cloth. They took a character from the books, Antoine, and they expanded that character, drug it out at a different point in the story.
I think a great way of doing it, frankly. Like a really great way of making that character more important even than it was in the book.
And also giving us a decent-sized female role in a book that is woefully low on female characters any kind.
We just had a conversation about that not too long ago. Yeah, there's not a lot of female representation in these books in general. Most of the women.
This one is the worst offender.
Yeah, and a lot of the women have no agency. I think that's kind of, especially our human females. No, don't say females. Our human ladies that we see have very little agency as far as their ins and outs and dealings with our supernatural characters.
All right, pop quiz question number 2.
Okay,
did Claudia love Lestat? So she says they're standing over his body. They've already burned Antoinette at this point. And she tells Louis for the first time, we have to burn him. And then she says, I've killed so many. Just know one eye. And before she can say anything else, Louis cuts her off and starts speaking about, I don't think I can do it. Just throw him in there, et cetera, et cetera. What would she have said? Would she have said cared for? No one I cared for? Would she have said loved? Did Claudia love Lestat?
I mean, I think I think she has to have loved Lestat, because otherwise it doesn't matter. Otherwise, his cruelty to her, his indifference to her, it would matter, but it wouldn't. It would just be like, okay, this is, I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't really give that much of a shit about me. You can get past that if it's not someone you care about, somebody you care if they are invested in you. You care if and there are times that they have good times too. And I mean, I can say, I'll be really honest. I have. My father passed away in 2001, but he could be abusive. He was very verbally abusive. He was a very challenging person to live with. He was an alcoholic. There's that love but when he was great, he was so great. No one got me more than him. When he was sober and he was fun and he was cool, we had the best times ever, but when it was bad, it hurt so much worse, because you have that good to compare it to. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
I mean, not only does it make sense, you absolutely could have been doing a monologue in the character of Claudia, I think, talking about Lestat there too.
I mean,
right?
not to get too dark, you guys, but I mean, like, that's the perspective I think of when I watch this. Especially, this has been one of the more difficult things for me to watch. Like, there are things that I won't watch. I haven't watched Shameless, because I'm afraid it'll hit a little too close to home at parts. There's just some things that are going to be really triggering, and I just kind of avoid it. But this was something that hit me in a different way, just in the intimacy that we're seeing, and in the intimacy we're seeing in the home, and in our disagreements and in our fights and things like that. It just, it's a lot. I'm really glad they've been putting domestic violence warnings on it, because I think that it's not something you would expect to need. You're like, vampires are fighting at home. Does that need domestic violence warning? Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does, because it's a vampire family. It's a vampire family fighting at home. So it absolutely, those relationships deserve that weight, and that is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
I've been able to sugarcoat this series a lot in my lifetime. I feel like I'm really like having to like come to face a lot of things with it. It's kind of weird.
All right. Everybody drink up, because I agree with Ashley. I do think Claudia loves Lestat.
Yeah,
I think that it's
hard.
I think it's a complicated relationship. It is not ideal. It is abusive. I think we've talked about this before too. As a parent with 4 kids, it's so interesting to see like the different personalities and chemical concoctions of genes that crop up in each one of them. But what happens so many times is the child that you end up like butting heads with the most is the one that is most like you.
Exactly.
Right? Like that is, I think, very, very common. And it comes from both sides. You see, first of all, you often like won't stand down on the same sorts of points. So you come to an argument more often than other pairings do. But also it's about like you see the flaws in yourself in the other one, and it enrages you.
Well, or you're almost like, I know what stupid mistake you're about to make, you dum-dum, because I made it like 22 years ago at 3:15 in the afternoon on November 4th. So just stop acting like me, please.
Yes. Oh my God. Anyway.
It's so interesting.
Claudia loves Lestat. And I do think that there will be mourning on her part as well at some point in season 2 for that loss. And I do wonder, I mean, this show can go all sorts of places now, but I do wonder where her story goes. We're going to get to that in a minute with Easter eggs. One more thing, this should maybe be an Easter egg, but I'm going to put it here. As Daniel begins to ask his questions, which I love the way that he starts it. Well, that's nice and tidy, isn't it?
Well, it's really funny because we've talked about like offhand how like this part of the book is such a nice, tidy place to cut the story for this season. That's all I could think of when we were saying that. I was so like,
convenient.
We repeatedly said how convenient this storyline is ending right here.
It really and I didn't realize this, but apparently the original pitch was that they were going to do the whole first book in one season, in an 8-episode season, and then that got expanded to actually do the first half of the book in 7. Actually, is what we want. The network asked, and so that's where this came from. But like, yeah, man, like, when he starts into that line of questioning, and I love the way that he brought it up, and he doesn't go immediately into, I know Rashid was there in the 70s, et cetera. He just starts down the path of
questioning Rashid's.
No, I'm not going to let you say. No, my favorite is that he's not going to let Louis say that it was a murder. It wasn't a murder. You didn't kill him, Louis.
Yeah.
He says, you're gonna kill a fucking vampire. You gotta burn him.
You gotta burn him, and that's what I mean. I think that is what the obvious. I think that's the obvious thing that maybe him and Claudia's like fight or disagreement about as they leave town has to do with him not being willing to really put an end to Lestat.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, in season 2, is Claudia literally going to always be looking over her shoulder thinking that Lestat's right around the corner? Like, does she imagine that he did return, or does she think it's just maybe possible? Anyway, while that begins, as soon as the line of questioning starts, where did the trash go, Louis?
Oh,
There's
so
music
good.
that begins to play. And the music that plays, and I was fairly certain, but Ashley, this is one of the reasons why our recording started so late tonight, is I took an extra few minutes and I had to go back and forth, and then I got like 3 different opinions on it too. I was certain that I recognized that music. I said, I know this song from somewhere, and I'm pretty sure. So I went and looked it up, and I was like, yeah, this has got to be the same. And I'm literally going back and forth. I'm on YouTube. I'm on AMC. I'm on YouTube. I'm on AMC. I'm playing this scene. I'm going back to this scene. What scene is it from? I believe that this is the case, and I've gotten a couple of verifications now that it is the same piece of music. So I think I can safely say this. The piece of music that's playing is the Moonlight Sonata, a little piece of it in particular.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That was played by Lestat in the 94 movie when he comes back as Swampstott, and there he is at I don't think it's a piano, I think it's a harpsichord in the movie. Mm-hmm. But he's sitting at the harpsichord and he's playing the Moonlight Sonata slowly, much more slowly than it's actually written to be played. And it's come to be called on YouTube, at least, Lestat's Sonata. And lots of people have done a cover of it because it's a really cool, haunting piece of music. I guarantee you that that's Lestat's Sonata that plays under that whole, where does the trash go, Louis?
Oh, it's so good.
That whole little monologue, which, by the way, is very cool because that echoes as well what Lestat does in the movie.
Right.
Claudia says, how did you come back? And he goes, there's so many, creepy crawly things that live in the swamp.
Dumbasses threw me in a swamp. My God, do you know how many things live in the swamp? If you're immortal.
So, but here again, to take that and turn it on its head a bit and say, no, Louis did it on purpose. Louis didn't kill him. Louis just forced a divorce.
Yeah.
No, get out and stay out for realsies. But honestly, this Lestat should not take, 15 years to get well enough to cross the ocean and get over there to Europe and catch up with these folks if that's what he wants to do. I don't know how season 2 is going to play out. I don't know. Well, here, you know what, folks? We love the episode. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. From here on, we're going to have to talk about Armand and things that happen at the rest of this book.
Yes.
So
and
if
also,
you don't want to know,
before we hit that, I just want to say the use of let the flesh instruct the mind. Hell yes.
Oh, yes.
That was just, that was another line that I liked hearing when what was it he told her? You irritate me.
Oh God, that was the one that I liked. You irritate me. Your very presence irritates me.
Your very presence
while he's playing
irritates me. It was such a moment right out of the '94 film. But let the flesh instruct the mind is such a great line. I loved hearing them say it to each other. It kind of gave them this moment that felt, because it's such a phrase, that they've said to each other, that it's this moment of oh, we're a team again, even though this is probably one of our last moments of being a team.
I mean, it's not, this episode is, I think, probably the least sexual of all of the series. And yet it's like that last time that you have sex with you haven't actually broken up yet, but you've had the conversation that you both know this thing is over, and then you sleep together that last time before you actually say goodbye or start packing things. This is the goodbye sex. There are those it's bittersweet moments, man. It's everybody's taking Polaroids in their brain to hang on to.
Yeah, it's the last.
We talked about
it's the last Thanksgiving before you murder your dad, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. So anyway, if you don't want to hear any of our speculation, now's the time to bounce out. We love you.
Big love.
Come join us next week. We'll talk about our season recap.
I may be in New Orleans.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You're headed down for your anniversary. That's awesome.
We may. We haven't 100% decided, but yeah, you may get some reports and hey, if there's anything you want to see, anything I can take pictures of, anything I can look for while I'm down there, post it. Just ask. I'll put a post in our Facebook group and you can respond to it. So if there's anything, if I do get down there, which if I don't now, I will by February because I'm about to burn the world down if I don't get to New Orleans. But yeah,
I absolutely. You and I were talking about that off the line. Absolutely, I'm very, very much hungering for the city right now.
Yes.
So let's get to the speculation.
Yes.
Here's my thing. I don't know with certainty that Claudia is dead in this universe. That's how much I am not sure what they're doing. If you ask me,
I think
to
she
bet
is.
money. Oh, I agree. I agree. First and foremost,
I like you're not sure, though. I totally get it.
Louis has talked about her in the past tense.
Right.
And secondly,
he's they're precious with her belongings.
Yes. And the character of Claudia is inherently about her age and the fact that she's not a woman. And Bailey Bass is very, very swiftly going to look like a full-on woman, not like a very tall, teenager.
Right.
So, I mean, even if you rush this thing into production for season 2, I think season 2 is going to be pushing it before she shows maturation physically, on screen, which is going to be a problem. But I'm saying Armand and Louis are together.
So here's where I feel like we are. This is where I think we are. And I'm not sure, but this is kind of where I'm like over the past couple of hours marinating in my brain. I think we're past the point of Claudia's death. We're past the point of Lestat being revealed to be having been involved with that. And now we're in that point where where Louis and Armand are together and spending their time together, and maybe are at the tail end of that time together when Louis goes back to finally try to find Lestat again, and maybe he's having trouble finding him. He's hoping to use Daniel and this story to bring Lestat back out, which will lead us into the modern day storyline of the vampire Lestat. That's what I think.
Here's something that had not occurred to me. Even I've watched it 3 full times today. Even through the third viewing, it had not occurred to me. Armand keeps the important books
out of
like,
everyone's
instance,
reach.
That's effectively the scrapbook of his life.
Yeah.
Very specifically out of Louis's reach. Louis can't fly.
Yeah. I was wondering about that in the library. I was like, what kind of fucked up library is this with the books way the hell up there without a sliding Beauty and the Beast ladder? It's some bullshit.
It's because they're only for Armand. I wonder how much has Armand misled Louis or manipulated Louis, or has he literally has he mind wiped him in some way or influenced him in some? For instance, I'm calling into question now. Okay, everybody was all up in arms because the scene, the beating between Louis and Lestat in episode 5, it very much has a ton of beats and even phrases and parts of dialogue and stuff from fights between Lestat and Armand in The Vampire Lestat, including the fact that in that book, at one point, Armand drops Lestat off of a tower. And everybody was like, wow, it's really strange how they combine those things. What if that beating didn't happen to Louis? I mean, like, that's the kind of thing that I wonder now. I feel like everything in this season has been called into question effectively, and it is entirely possible that Louis is being held hostage, either subconsciously or consciously.
I think he's ready to leave, but doesn't know how. And I think that he knows he needs Lestat
to come kick Armand's ass and save him.
I honestly think that that's where we're at. He's trying to use Daniel to wake up or to call Lestat to him. I truly think that. Like, 100%. Like, that whole end of the episode had a very, fucking, what is it? When you fall in love with your captors kind of crap.
Yeah, there is definitely some of that going on. It felt like
please save me, help, blink, blink, SOS. He's blinking SOS. But I loved him taking off his gloves and taking out his eye. Like, I was like, okay, good, fuck you, because Armand should have the most beautiful, intoxicating brown eyes on the planet. And I'm so glad.
I do like those crazy eyes, man.
I'm absolutely. So glad they pulled
I like his eyes a lot.
And that he was wearing
contacts
lenses the whole time.
Yeah. Armand's got a line there. He says, first of all, Armand's got a couple of really good lines at the end. Like, I really liked, what's a mediocre star to a 514-year-old vampire?
Fuck you. Fuck you.
And then I also liked, I liked when Armand says, Louis acts out.
Yes. What is that?
Sometimes. Well, think about it.
Drugged up there?
At the end of what does Louis do at the end of the interview with the vampire? He cuts off several vampires' heads and then burns the entire theater.
Well, they deserve that.
No, 100% agree. 100% agree. I'm just saying.
Justice is different
Louis
in the
is
vampire
known to
world.
Act out.
No, it is true. It is true.
This Louis,
and this Louis especially, yeah.
Yeah, this Louis hung an alderman on a gate.
Yeah, this Louis
Louis
is not fucking around. So I'm here for a less Eeyore version of Louis 100% of the time.
I am amazed that they have been able to construct something that can be so thoroughly full of the heart of the text itself,
yes,
and of Anne's characters and situations,
honoring and the imagery, honoring
this universe that she's built.
Yes, honoring the imagery and
so
the
much
world.
of it, right? It feels like Anne, it looks like Anne, it smells like Anne, etc. And yet, even for you and me, who have read all of these books many times over the years, have read the first 5 books recently, like in the past couple of years, we've gone through all 5 of the first books, you and me, and yet still, here we are,
wondering
surprised.
What's going to happen next.
I just told you, I'm not certain this Claudia is dead.
Right.
Claudia's been dead for 40 plus
There
years.
hasn't been a Claudia around here for 20 years. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I mean, it's like, in comics they say nobody stays dead except for, Bucky and Gwen Stacy, except then they brought Bucky back too. Well, they brought Gwen Stacy back now as well.
There is no
but
death.
I mean, Claudia stays dead. Claudia dies in the end. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Except I don't know, man. Hey, and also, like, who actually attacked Daniel in the 70s? Was it Louis and Armand stopped him? Or was it Lestat that attacked Daniel, just like in the movie, at the end of the 94 movie, and it was Armand that stopped Lestat from killing Daniel back then? I don't know. I'm just saying they could go all sorts of places. The only nitpick that I have with this finale, honestly, that would have, I think, made me a little more satisfied as we ride off into the sunset here, is I really wanted to see Lestat post attack. We get an arm out of the trunk in the thing, so we know that he's alive.
Yeah,
we know Daniel's not just theorizing. We know he lived.
Yeah,
or I say that we know he lived then. We don't know still whether he's alive and conscious in 2022, right? Like, does he have any agency in the modern world, or has he been in one of his many comas? I don't know. Anyway. I would have loved. We had speculated. Are we going to get a line just like from the movie? Are we
a little
get
tease?
I assume I need no introduction.
Yes.
I really thought we would at least get like a fancy boot, coming off of a motorcycle or something.
I'm kind of glad we didn't. Honestly, I'm kind of glad we didn't. I'm kind of glad they're leaving us to stew in our thoughts, because that's what the fucking books did. They just left you to sit there and think about what you had just read for the next 5 years. So I'm kind of excited that they have left us to think about what's going to happen next, and not giving us a big tease. I mean, we did get a big tease, but I think most of us saw it coming.
Well, here's one tease we definitely did get. AMC announces last week that they're going to start dropping these cast diaries on AMC Plus weekly, and I got all excited about it. I looked at the first episode. It's an hour and 14 minutes long. I was like, oh my goodness, the riches. I watched the first, 10 seconds or so. It's Rollin Jones speaking. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. No, friends, it's just the full. So it's episode 1. It's the full episode, except several times throughout it, they'll stop, and for about 30 seconds, you'll get some commentary from the cast.
It's like that's a bummer.
It's a little bit of a bummer. I mean, I will say this.
Hey, look, I like some commentary.
Anyway,
we're going to do a rewatch anyway. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. We're going to do a rewatch anyway, so I'm probably going to at least do my first rewatch that way so that I get the commentary as well. But I am a little bummed, both ways. I'm a little bummed that it's not more than that when we thought it might be full episodes even. And I'm also a little bummed that they don't give you that content outside of the episode in some way so that you can access it quickly if you'd like it. Anyway, that's what that is. I have one more Easter egg that I did want to mention here. Oh, okay. So right before the feast takes place, Lestat and Claudia and Louis have everybody lined up around the table, and they're telling the story about the Philosopher's Stone. Lestat's given this excellent backstory on how this is all, how it's come down to him. I really like that. I do wonder, though, is that possibly a Magnus reference that I don't quite get? So Magnus was Magnus, of course, the Lestat's maker. He was an alchemist before he stole the blood from the coven under Les Innocents. And so I wonder, I'm not sure about the time period. I'm trying to think like how old was Magnus?
Well, that could, yeah, like a little tongue-in-cheek reference to Magnus.
Yeah, I think that might have been a reference to Magnus, the bookseller that's referenced in that story. I wonder if it's not. Anyway, regardless, I like it anytime you bring alchemy in. And so the idea that they were going to do, they were going to share with them this alchemic potion that you could drink and live forever. I dug that. I also liked that then that brings in Tom, and springs Lestat on him, that sets off our whole horror scene earlier. I am so looking forward to what comes next from this series.
Oh my goodness, you guys!
I really don't know. I really don't know what is going to happen. They've got.
I don't either.
Now.
Like I said when we first started off, I was like my biggest question is, what the fuck time period are we in? What is happening? Right? What are we doing? Like, now I feel completely disconnected from reality. I do have my idea that I think is accurate, but also I don't think I'm right. That's what this show. I think I've used the best context clues, but fuck, I'm probably not right.
I'm super excited to share this continued journey with all of you. I am super excited to talk to you about Mayfair Witches in just a little while. A couple of schedule updates before we wrap things up for tonight. So next week we will have another regular episode. We'll do like a season recap episode. Some of your feedback too, by the way. I've got a thread that is up on our Facebook group. I'll bump that as well and remind everybody about it. But if you've got some speculation or some just general like, hey, here are my thoughts on the series.
If you need to air your grievances, that's a place for it too.
Exactly. And then after that, we're going to take a couple of weeks off as the cast diaries are not full episodes. We're not really going to have enough to talk about there. We've got a witching hour episode coming sometime between now and January. And then we'll be back with you in early January for weekly episodes about the Mayfair Witches. I say early January. Well, yeah, the first episode drops on like the 6th. So yeah, it'll be like right after New Year's. We'll be back up and running with weekly shows.
That's my husband's birthday.
And then
the 6th.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
See, look at that. So we started back with regular episodes here on my birthday with interview.
And then it's Brett's birthday.
With Brettley's birthday on when we start back with Mayfair Witches. That's fantastic. Any final thoughts on this one, Ashley, before we say goodnight?
I'm just, this has been an insane ride. This episode was everything I really hoped it would be, as far as like spectacle, and I mean, this is just theatrical as hell. I love it. I'm psyched, ready for the next round, but also really, really excited to go back and do a rewatch now. And so I'm excited to see what you guys think about the full season and what you want to talk about, what you need to discuss when we do our recap. And then, yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. We're unbelievably lucky we get to talk about this crap with you guys.
I'll say this. We're going to try to do both in between Mayfair Witches and the return of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, but I think we're going to have to read the Vampire Armand first before we get to Pandora, in case we don't have time for both.
Yeah.
Man,
I think we're going to have to. It's
who
fine.
Knew it was going to be so important?
We're going to do both. We're doing both, but we're going to do Armand first, but we're doing both. We're not skipping anything. We're reading all these damn books, Joel. We're not skipping a damn book. This is what we did for 5 years before they gave us a show.
We're even going to read Vittorio eventually.
You're damn right. I'm going to read it. I'm going to be so excited about it.
All I remember about that one, there's something about he sees visions of light or something, I think, at the end of it. I can't remember the specifics. I think there's visions of that one. Although Armand is a vampire who has visions as well throughout his life. So, folks, so much to speculate about. So much to think about. I cannot believe, Ashley, we have a show. It's a hit show. Like season 2 is already coming back. People demanding season 3 announcements already.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so exciting.
What a time to be alive.
What a time. I think we are the luckiest nerds alive. Like, if you like Lord of the Rings, if you like Star Wars, if you like Interview with the Vampire, you like the Vampire Chronicles, you like Marvel, Jesus Christ, there's so much great content for those of us that went to Star Trek conventions before it was cool.
Oh my God, 1,000,000%.
Yeah. What a time to be alive.
Here's again my suggestion to watch Andor if you're not currently watching
Jesus
it
Christ,
already.
you guys, it's so good. Oh, it's so good.
It got even better this episode. Like this last episode was. I literally told Kelly, I was like, if my favorite vampire wasn't going to die this week, this would have been my favorite episode of television.
I had to take we took a week off. We're behind because I was like, I just can't. I can't deal with this kind of a downer right now.
You'd be like, look, I can't go to the oppressive state prison in a
but it's
space empire.
Oh my God, it's so good, and the casting and that is just, of course, as delicious as it was in fucking Rogue One, man.
Again, like what an embarrassment of riches. All right,
we are such lucky people.
Folks, thank you all for making this such a fun ride for us and for hanging out on our Facebook group and our Twitter account. You can find us at Articulate Coven. Search our Articulate Coven on Facebook or find the links in the show notes too. We'll be back with you next week to do our season 1 recap for our cable viewers. Don't forget, you get a double dose next week. So when you finish listening to this one, you've got another episode already for that season recap waiting on you too. Until then, we've been your hosts,
Ashley Wright Eiler.
I'm Joel Sharpton, and we are the Articulate Coven. Thanks for listening to the Articulate Coven. You can join our community on Facebook by following the links in the show notes or searching for Articulate Coven on Facebook. You can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or at articulatecoven.com. And share us with your Anne Rice-loving friends.